Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the urinary bladder. For that, just begin with this diagram. This is a mid-sagittal section of the pelvis of male. As you all know, the urinary bladder is a muscular organ that acts as a reservoir of urine, which urine that is formed in kidney and taken out via ureters to the urinary bladder. This mid-sagittal section is showing the urinary bladder and the rectum. Here, the anteriormost, this is the pubic symphysis. So you can see that this bladder is situated just behind the pubic symphysis. There is a tiny space in between the bladder and the pubic symphysis, and this space is called as retropubic space or retropubic cave or retropubic space of Ritgius. Okay, Ritgius. As this bladder has a strong muscular wall, its shape and relations are varying according to the amount of urine that it contains. As you can see in this picture, the empty bladder in the adults lies entirely within the pelvis. As the bladder fills, its superior wall rises up into the hypogastric region. And in cases of young childs, this empty bladder projects just above the pelvic inlet. Later on, when the pelvic cavity enlarges in size, the bladder sinks into the pelvis to take it up its normal position as in adults. So this is a picture showing the normal enlargement of the bladder according to the amount of the urine. Its superior wall rises up and goes into the hypogastric area. Here this is showing the uplifting of the peritoneum. This is the body of pubis, and here the openings of the ureter. This is the urethra and this is the bladder. When empty, it is look like this, and when the urine amount increases, the upper or superior wall goes up to into the hypogastric area. As in adults, the maximum capacity of the urine in bladder is about 500 ml. It can store about the 500 ml urine at once. Now, let's see in this picture. This is showing the proper bladder, entry points of two ureters and the urethra. Now, the empty bladder is pyramidal in shape and having an apex here and a base here and one superior surface and two inferolateral surfaces. It also has neck here. So this pyramidal shaped urinary bladder has an apex and a base, superior surface and two inferolateral surfaces, and the neck here from where the urethra gets started. So this is the structure of the urinary bladder. This apex of the bladder points anteriorly and lies just behind the upper margin of the pubic symphysis, as you have seen in the previous picture. The apex of this bladder lies just behind the pubic symphysis, and it is connected to the umbilicus by the median umbilical ligament. Have you remember that? That is the remnant of the urachus. So this apex is connected with the umbilicus by the median umbilical ligament. Now let's talk about the base or the posterior surface of the bladder. Here this is the base or the posterior surface of the bladder. It faces posteriorly and it is triangular in shape almost. And it's superolateral. You can see here the superolateral angles, they are joined by the two ureters, right and left ureter. The superolateral angle of the posterior surface or the base, they are joined by the two ureters. And the inferior angle is giving rise to the urethra in male or in female. So this is the posterior surface or base of the bladder. Superolaterally it has two openings of the ureter and inferiorly it has the urethra. This up here is in this picture you can see this white covering. This is the peritoneal covering of the upper surface of the or the superior surface of the bladder. This upper part of the posterior surface, again here this upper part of this posterior surface of the bladder is covered by the part of peritoneum, and this forms the retrovesical pouch. Have you remember that? In cases of female, here will be the pelvis or the pubic symphysis. Just behind there is bladder, and just behind the bladder there will be the uterus. So in space in between the uterus and the bladder, this is the utrovesical pouch. And in male, just behind this bladder there is rectum. So this peritoneal reflection over from the superior surface of the bladder get reflected over to the rectum, and this is known as rectovesical pouch. This is the picture showing the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. Here you can see that this is the seminal vesicles, and these are the ampulla of the vas deferens, and here you can see the vas deferens that is crossing ureter on its anteriorly. So on the posterior aspect of the lower part of the urinary bladder, it is separated by these seminal vesicles and the vas deferens to the rectum. Here this is clear. This is the posterior surface of the bladder. So lower part is separated from the rectum via these two structures, that is the seminal vesicles and the vas deferens. Here this is the posterior surface of the prostate, and this is the superior surface of the urinary bladder. Talking about the superior surface of the bladder, you can see here, and also you can see in this picture. Here this is the superior, this is the lateral view of the bladder, apex and the base, and this is the superior surface. So the superior surface of the bladder is covered with the peritoneum and is related to the coils of ileum and the sigmoid colon. It is related with the coils of ileum and the sigmoid colon on the superior aspect of this superior surface of the bladder. And along with this superior surface, the peritoneum is reflected towards the lateral wall of the pelvis on the both sides. This peritoneum is reflected over the pelvic wall. Talking about the inferior surface, here this one on the both sides, right and left, they are related in front to the retropubic pad of fat and the pubic bone, and posteriorly they comes into the contact with the obturator internus muscle above and the levator ani muscle below. So these are the inferolateral surface. Anteriorly they are related with the retropubic pad of fat, and posteriorly they are related with the two muscles. In the upper part they are the obturator internus and below levator ani muscle. Now let's see the neck of the bladder. This neck of bladder is lies inferiorly and rests on the upper surface of the prostate. Here, the smooth muscles of fibers of the bladder wall is continuation with those of the prostate. Here, this neck of bladder is held in its own position with the help of two types of the ligaments. They are the true and false. And true ligaments, they are formed by the condensation of the pelvic fascia, but the false ligament, they are nothing but just the fold of the peritoneum. Now, first let's talk about the true ligaments of the urinary bladder. So this is a superior view of the female pelvis. You can see this is a schematic diagram showing posteriorly sacrum, anteriorly the pubic symphysis. Here this is urinary bladder, this is uterus, and this is rectum, and all the other structures are not shown here. So as I have told you that true ligaments, they are formed by the condensation of this pelvic fascia surrounding these structures. So at the neck of bladder, what are those ligaments? True. First is the lateral ligament on the both sides. This lateral ligament, they are two in number, right and left side, and they arises or they extends from the inferolateral surfaces on the both side of the bladder, and goes towards the pelvic fascia. So from both side of the inferolateral surfaces of the bladder, they goes towards the pelvic fascia. This is the lateral ligament on both sides, right and left. First. Second is puboprostatic ligament. Puboprostatic ligament. According to their presence, they are medial and the lateral. They are four in number, two on each side, one lateral and medial, and one medial and lateral on the right and left side. So let's talk about first the lateral puboprostatic ligament. As the name suggests, it extends downward and medially from the anterior end of the tendinous arch of this pelvic fascia and blends with the upper part of the prostatic sheath. So it lies in a lower portion as compared to the lateral ligaments. Arises from or extends from the arch of the pelvic fascia and blends with the upper part of the prostatic sheath. This is lateral puboprostatic ligament on the both side. The second is this medial puboprostatic ligament. Again, it extends downward and medially backward towards from the pubic bone near the pubic symphysis and goes to the prostatic sheath again, blends with the prostatic sheath again. In females, this puboprostatic ligament is termed as pubovesical ligament. In male, it is called as puboprostatic ligament, lateral and medial, and in female, this is termed as lateral and medial pubovesical ligament. Now the third is median umbilical ligament, like this. It is a fibrous remnant of the urethra and it extends from the apex of the bladder to the umbilicus, and it maintains the bladder in the position anteriorly and the superiorly. This is the median umbilical ligament. Now, and the last one is the posterior ligament. You can see here on the both sides. They are two in number, right and left, and they extend as a sheet of loose areolar tissue from the side of the base of the bladder to the lateral pelvic wall, and they also contains vesical venous plexus here. These are the two posterior ligaments. So the true ligaments, they are first the lateral ligament, Second, that is the puboprostatic ligament or the pubovesical ligament in female. They are lateral and medial. Third is the median umbilical ligament, and the fourth is the posterior ligament of the bladder. Let's talk about the false ligaments. They are the peritoneal folds, and they are 7 in numbers. For see that peritoneal folds, I have taken this superior view of the male pelvis, and the structures coming there. This is the superior surface of the bladder. Here, this is the rectum, this is sigmoid colon, cecum, and here will be the anterior abdominal wall and the pubic symphysis. Now, so anteriorly there is 3 folds. One is median and 2 is medial. Okay, 1 median and 2 medial umbilical folds. So this median fold covers median umbilical ligament, and 2 medial folds, they covers or they contains obliterated umbilical artery here. So anteriorly it has 1 median umbilical fold and 2 medial umbilical folds, median and medial. Okay. Laterally, we have a pair of lateral false ligament that extends from the bladder to the lateral pelvic wall, and they forms the floor of paravesical fossa on the both side. So this is the pair of lateral false ligament, and posteriorly there is a pair of sacrogenital fold which extends from the lateral margins of the base of bladder to the third sacral vertebra. We can't show here it now, but this is posterior false fold, which is termed as a pair of sacrogenital fold. So these are the false ligaments of the urinary bladder. Now let's talk about the bladder bed. As we have studied about the stomach bed, this bladder bed, these are the structures which comes around the bladder anteriorly, posteriorly and below, and they supports the bladder, or you can say on that bladder is rested. So these structures are as follows. Anteriorly there will be body of pubis and the pubic symphysis, fascia of levator ani and obturator internus muscle, and the retropubic fat. So these are the structures forming bladder bed anteriorly, and posteriorly the ampulla of rectum and the anterior wall of the vagina in cases of female, base of prostate and the superior fascia of urogenital diaphragm is supporting this urinary bladder from below. Students, now let's talk about the structure of the urinary bladder and the interior structures of the urinary bladder. When we talk about the structure of the bladder, here we have taken this picture. This is a coronal section, anterior view showing the trigone, interior of the bladder, urethra and the prostate. So let's talk about the walls of the bladder, which are present from outside to inward. So these are serous, they are in 4 in number: serous coat, muscular coat, submucosal coat and the mucosa. From outward to inward it has serous, muscular, submucosal and finally the inside the mucosal layer. So I am not going into the detail of the histological properties of each and every layer. You should go through your histology books. Let's take them one by one. The serous coat, that is the outermost coat, is formed by the peritoneum. Okay. Now let's talk about the second or the muscular coat. For that, you can see on this side the submucosal and the mucosal layer has been removed to show the muscular coats of the urinary bladder. It is also known as detusal muscle, and it has three ill-defined layers of smooth muscles, that is outer longitudinal, middle circular, and the innermost is again a longitudinal layer of the smooth muscle. Okay, so this outer longitudinal layer is in continuation with the muscles of the prostate. I have already told you about that. And this middle circular layer, after covering all the entire bladder, it is thickened around the internal urethral orifice here, and it forms an involuntary sphincter that is called as sphincter vesicae, this middle layer or the circular layer. And the inner longitudinal, you can see here, this inner longitudinal layer is continuous with the muscles of the urethra. So this is outer longitudinal, that is continuation with the prostate, middle circular layer that forms an sphincter vesicae at the internal urethral orifice, and the again inner longitudinal layer that continues as the muscles of the urethra. These are the layers of the muscular coat. Now the third layer, that is the submucous coat. It is composed of loose areolar tissue, and it present all over the bladder except this trigone area. Okay, where this mucous membrane is adherent to the overlaying muscles. There is no submucous coat in the trigone area. Some authors believe that the submucous coat is absent in entire bladder, but for us there is submucous coat which consists of loose areolar tissue, and it's covered all over the bladder. The last one is the mucous membrane that covers the entire bladder inside, that is the mucous membrane. It is lined by the transitional epithelium, or you can say the urothelium, which is urine proof and devoid of muscularis mucosae and the mucus gland. And the surface cells of the mucosa, they are polyhedral in shape, and they are having abundant cytoplasm and a prominent nuclei. And these cytoplasm of the surface cells, they spread like umbrella to allow the distension of the bladder without tension to the individual cells. That's why it is called as umbrella cell. You can go through your histology book for the detail of these structures, the umbrella cell and the properties of the transitional epithelium. Now let's talk about the interior of the bladder. There is a number of temporary mucosal folds, or you can say the rugae, are present in the entire bladder except this trigone area, and these folds, they disappear when the bladder is distended. Now this picture is again a coronal section, anterior view, showing a more larger view of the internal trigone, or you can say the trigonum vesicae. It is a triangle on the inner aspect of the base of the bladder, where the mucous membrane is tense and shining due to the absence of the submucous coat over here. This is the trigonal area. Boundaries की बात करें तो there is apex and the base. So the apex is directed downward and forward, and it is formed by the internal urethral orifice here. In male, there is a rounded elevation which is called as uvula vesicae that projects upward behind this urethral orifice, and it is formed by the medial lobe of the prostate over here. And this base is formed by the interureteric fold or interureteric ridge. This is also called as Mercer's bar, which extends in between the two orifices of the ureter, and it is slightly curved transverse ridge which is formed by the prolongation of the inner longitudinal muscles of the ureters, okay, on the both side. And each posterolateral angles of this trigone is having ureteric orifices, which is also having a oblique slit. You can see oblique slit, ureteral orifices. It is about 2.5 centimeters apart from each other in empty bladder. But when the bladder is distended, it is about the distance in between the ureteral orifices in between, it is about 5 centimeters. So normally it is 2.5, but in distended bladder it is 5 centimeters. And the sides of the trigone, they are formed by the ureteric lines on the both side. And now let's see the layers at the site of this trigonal area from inside to outward. The innermost is the mucous membrane of the transitional epithelium, first one, which is dense and shiny. Second is the trigonal muscles of Bell. That replaces the submucous coat, and it is tightly adhered to the mucous membrane over here. And the third one is from inside to outward. First one is mucous membrane, that is formed by the transitional epithelium. Second is trigonal muscles of Bell, and third is loose areolar sheet, that is also known as fascia of Waldeyer. And the last one is outermost, that is the detusor muscles of the bladder. So these are the layers present at the trigonal vesicle from inside to outward. Now let's talk about the importance of this trigone, why we are studying in detail this area only. So because it is the most fixed and the dependent part of the bladder, this trigonal vesicle, and it is richly supplied by the blood vessels and nerves. Again, one more important thing about this trigone is it develops from the mesoderm, as you all know, and the rest of the part of the bladder mucosa is developed from the endoderm of the cloaca. So this is all about for the structure and the interior of the bladder, especially about the trigonum vesicle. Let's discuss about some clinical aspect regarding this trigonal area. Okay, some male old age patients, they comes with the complaint of, that is the increased frequency of micturition. What happened in this case? In male, this uvula vesicle gets enlarges in old ages due to the enlargement of the prostate, and thus it obstructs the outflow of the urine. When this patient gives more pressure to avoid the urine, this urinary outflow becomes more diminished because uvula bulges within the sphincter vesicle over here, and the sphincteric control suffers due to this bulging of the uvula. Finally, in between this pressure and relaxation, the urine trickles down to the proximal urethra very slowly. So the patient has to go for many times to empty his bladder, and this is the reason why the patients of the BPH, they are complaining about the increased frequency of the maturation. Second thing is, normally the ureteric orifices are, which you can see here, they present oblique slit. Sometime one orifice is in circular in shape. Okay, ये इस तरीके से ना होके इस तरीके से हो जाए. And this is due to the shortening of the ureter, as in cases, it can be seen in cases of the tuberculosis of the kidney. This type of the opening of the ureter is known as Golf hole ureter. Okay, so this is all about for the interior structure of the urinary bladder.